Hello and welcome to Nikolai's genetics lessons, and today's problem is the trait in the pedigree below is inherited as a simple recessive. It is very rare in the general population, so assume that anyone who marries into the family is homozygous for normal allele unless there is evidence to the contrary. What is the probability of the trait appearing in the offspring if the following individuals should marry? And as you see, here is two crosses. And first of all, I want to say that we have here one generation, second generation, third generation, and fourth generation. So let's use Roman symbols to designate each generation. So first generation, second generation, third generation, and fourth generation. So the question is, what is the chances that progeny would be affected if 3, 1, this is 3, 1, and 3, 12 would marry. So 3, 1 and 3, 12. So this is 10, 11, 12. So this person and this person. So let's start from the first generation, and as you see, this is homozygous recessive trait. In order for the person to be affected, he has to be homozygous recessive. So we know that genotype of this person is small a, small a. And we also told that we have to assume that anyone who marries into the family is homozygous for the normal allele unless there is evidence to the contrary. So do we have to suggest that this person is homozygous dominant or not? Let's take a look at the progeny. So this is daughter, another daughter, another daughter, and a son. So as you see, they have affected daughter. So genotype of the daughter is also small a allele. And if this parent would be homozygous dominant, would have two dominant alleles. If we cross homozygous recessive with homozygous dominant, all the progeny would be heterozygous and would be normal. So this is how we know that genotype of this parent have to be heterozygous, so capital A and small a. In this case, this parent can give only recessive allele, but this parent may give a dominant allele, then phenotype would be normal, or recessive allele and phenotype would be affected. And as you see, 1, 2, 3 children, regardless of the sex, are normal for this trait, and 1 child is affected. So what is the genotype of this parent? Because we have to find the probability that this person carries recessive allele. So what is the probability that this person is heterozygous and have recessive allele that can transfer to progeny? So let's build a simple Punnett square, and once again, this is a genotype of one parent, this is genotype of the other parent. So male parent genotype on top, and female genotype on the side. And according to the Punnett square, the probability to have a carrier would be capital A small a here, small a here, capital A small a here, and small a here. So as you see, 50% of the progeny would be affected, and 50% of the progeny would be unaffected. So as you see, this parent of this child have to be heterozygous. there's only two variants whether he can be affected. We know that this person is not affected, or that means that this parent 100% is heterozygous. So this is going to be genotype of this parent, capital A and small a, and we have to assume that genotype of the other parent is capital A, because this would be outcross, and this couple doesn't have affected children, so we have to assume that genotype of this parent would be normal for both alleles. So what is the probability for their child to be a carrier? Once again, we have one parent who is male and his genotype is capital A, and female has genotype that is capital A, small a. And when we build a Punnett square, we can see probability for the child to be a carrier. So capital A here, capital A here, capital A small a here, and capital A small a here. As you see, 50% of the progeny would be homozygous dominant, normal phenotype. Other 50% also would have a normal phenotype, but would be carriers. So that means that for this child to be a carrier, probability 50% or 1/2. Let's put this probability here. So probability that this child is heterozygous is 1/2. So now we have to find probability for this child in this family to be also a carrier. So we know that genotype of this parent is homozygous recessive. Genotype of this parent is, we have to assume that this is going to be homozygous dominant. So capital A, this couple doesn't have affected children. So we have to assume that genotype of this parent is capital A. So that means that 100% of their children, they have 3 children, have to be heterozygous. So I think it is clear, and I don't have to build another Punnett square, that when we have one parent homozygous dominant, another parent homozygous recessive, that 100% of their children have to be capital A, small a genotype. So we know that this person, this male here, 100%, or we can just put 1, which equal to 100%, that this person is carrier and heterozygous. Now we can calculate chances for a couple where both parents are heterozygous to have affected child. And once again we build the Punnett square. Both parents are heterozygous, so capital A here, capital A small a here, capital A small a here, and small a here. According to Punnett square, 3/4 are probability that this couple would have an affected child, and 1/4 probability that this couple would have affected child. So now we can return to our question, and once again final calculations would be as follows. Probability that this parent is heterozygous is 1/2. Probability that this parent is heterozygous is 100% or 1. And if this couple would have a child, probability that this child would be affected according to our last Punnett square, as you remember, probability was 1/4. So as you see, we have here 3 independent probabilities, and when we connect independent probabilities with a word and, for example, what is the probability that the first parent would be heterozygous and second parent also would be heterozygous, and what is the probability that they would have affected child, when we can connect different probabilities with the word and, then we can use a product rule. So we have to multiply these 3 independent probabilities. So 1 doesn't affect our calculations. Anything multiplied by 1 would be the same number. So basically we have to multiply 1/2 by 1/4. So as you see, the answer would be that probability that this couple would have affected child would be 1/8. If you need an answer in percentage form, you have to divide 1 by 8 and multiply by 100. So let's move to the next question. What is the probability to have affected child for couple 3, 4? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So this time for this person here, and 3, 15. So third generation, this is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So this person here. So according to our previous findings, probability that this person would be a carrier would be the same as for her sister, for her all siblings, and the probability would be, let me use different color this time, and probability would be 1/2. So let's now concentrate our attention on this family, and what is the probability that this person here in second generation, number 8, is carrier. And if we would take a look at our previous Punnett square that we solved, this is our Punnett square, where one parent is homozygous recessive, this parent, another is heterozygous, this parent. So we know that phenotype of this person is normal, and this means that this person have to be obligate heterozygous. The other variant would be affected, but we see that this person is not affected, so he have to be obligate heterozygous, and genotype have to be capital A and small a. And because this couple doesn't have affected children, so we have to assume that genotype of this female is capital A, capital A. Once again, when we have a family where one parent is heterozygous, another one is homozygous dominant, and this is example, 50% of their progeny would be carriers and 50% would be homozygous dominant. So probability for this child to be carrier would be 1/2. And of course, once again, when we have two parents who is heterozygous, probability for them to have affected child would be 1/4. So let's now return to our problem. Once again, probability that this person is heterozygous according to our calculations is 1/2. 1/2. Probability that second person here is also heterozygous is 1/2. And probability that they would have affected child would be 1/4. So once again we have to use product rule, and the answer would be 1/2 multiplied by 1/2 would be 1/4. 1/4 multiplied by 1/4 would be 1/16. Once again, if you need an answer in percentage form, you have to divide 1 by 16 and multiply by 100. So you would get an answer in percentage form. And this is all for today. Thank you for your attention. Please subscribe for my new videos that I post almost every day. Thumbs up if you like this video. Please write your comments, questions if you have any, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.